Welcome. We're going to give folks about 1 or 2 more minutes. I know we've got a number of participants already. Just waiting on a couple others. So around 12:02, we'll get started on this, but welcome and thank you for joining us today. All right, I see some more folks heading in. All right, folks, we're going to go ahead and get started today. Thank you so much for joining us for the first installment of our Retrofit Solutions webinar series, focused on innovative gas technologies and the role of utilities in a clean energy future. My name is Matt Watson, and I'm the Communications Manager here at Illinois Green Alliance. This webinar series is a project of the Building Energy Resource Hub and aims to educate the building industry on the latest advancements in gas efficiency while taking a deeper look at emerging and existing technologies that lower emissions and energy bills. Today, we are joined by Thomas Manjaris, Technical Lead of Peoples Gas and North Shore Gas Energy Efficiency Programs. Thomas is going to provide an overview of decarbonization versus electrification and discuss how gas decarbonization can offer a pathway to net zero before jumping into greater detail on a number of innovative and sustainable new technologies. Next slide. But first, a little bit about the Hub. The Hub is a clearinghouse for building retrofit, energy, and decarbonization resources designed for the commercial and multifamily residential building industry. We created this hub and programs just like it to help commercial and multifamily building industry professionals with planning, financing, and implementing building retrofits within Illinois. But we cannot do this alone. The Hub is a project hosted by Illinois Green Alliance in collaboration with our key partners, including the ComEd Energy Efficiency Program, Elevate, the Illinois Climate Bank, and the City of Chicago. And we are working with supportive funding from the U.S. Department of Energy. Next slide. Some of the goals of the Hub are to educate and train building professionals, support diverse contractors, connect contractors to a project pipeline, build capacity for advanced codes and policies, and streamline access to financial resources. Next slide. That, I'll hand it over to our speaker and let him tell you more about gas decarbonization technologies and the ways you can leverage these to save money and energy in your buildings. For audience members, please feel free to drop your questions into the chat during the presentation. We will have time at the end of the presentation for a Q&A session, and I will record these questions in the order they come in so we can go over those at the end. Next slide. All right, Thomas, take it away.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, so excited to be here. I cherish the opportunity to talk to our customers. It's becoming a larger and larger part of my job here. So excited to talk to you, not just about the technologies, but also take a step back and show you the big picture and the roadmap for how we get from where we are today to a clean energy future. Next slide, please. Before we dive right in, I just want to set the stage and identify who we are. So Peoples Gas is the gas utility that serves just the city of Chicago. We have a sister utility here in Illinois, North Shore Gas, serving 54 communities up in Lake County up to the Wisconsin border. Peoples Gas actually is Illinois' first utility, Chicago's first utility. We're celebrating our 175th birthday this year, and I think that's relevant because it's interesting to note that we were around before electric utilities were, before electricity. So we've already been through one change, and there've been a few smaller changes along the way, but the industry as a whole is used to change, and I'll show you a little bit about how that future might unfold. Next slide, please. Okay, so again, the theme of the day are emerging new technologies, but I have to point out that new isn't always needed. So we have a whole portfolio of energy efficiency programs serving all customers, small businesses, private customers, public sector customers, anything from small mom and pop shops up to the biggest industrial manufacturing plants. So chances are there's something for everyone in our programs today. So I definitely encourage all of you you should be taking advantage of these programs. Again, we've got a lot of great offerings, but we always have our eye to the future, and so there are new technologies coming. But my recommendation is use the programs, use them often. So there's definitely something for you today, and there might be more for you in the future. Next slide, please. Okay, so again, how do we get from where we are today to a decarbonized future? Next slide, please. So it starts with a very clearly defined end goal. And what I've noticed over the past few years is the end goal isn't always clear to people. So I just want to be clear that decarbonization is the end goal. Reducing or eliminating greenhouse gas emissions anywhere and everywhere possible. Electrification can be a means to achieving that end goal, but just the electrification piece alone doesn't necessarily guarantee the decarbonization piece. So again, we need to be clear about what the actual end goal is, and then evaluate all options and how we can get people there. Next slide, please. Okay, so as a gas utility and as gas utility customers, what is the roadmap? How do we get there? This concept of gas decarbonization is what the industry is working towards. And what we mean by that is, we're an infrastructure company. So we own the pipes in the ground. We don't own the commodity that flows through the pipes. And so what we want to do is we want to leverage that infrastructure to deliver the clean, decarbonized fuels of the future. So we have this infrastructure built. We know it's an efficient way to deliver energy to customers. So let's repurpose that to deliver clean energy to customers. How do we do that? Following these 4 pillars. First and foremost, aggressively pursue energy efficiency. And we know there are enormous energy efficiency opportunities throughout our service territories. We need to be doing everything we can to help customers access those efficient technologies and reducing barriers anywhere and everywhere possible. And then that leads right into the second pillar, which is the actual decarbonized fuels. So we know that low carbon fuels are going to be more expensive than fossil natural gas. Therefore, we need to make sure that we're reducing gas usage as much as possible to begin with, so that we can meet more of those loads with the decarbonized fuels. And then again, to get us, all the way to a fully decarbonized future, we need to be taking full advantage of all the tools in the toolbox. So that means emissions offsets, carbon capture, negative emissions technologies. I'll talk a little bit about carbon capture later on, but that's really the tip of the iceberg. The last 10 years in the field of carbon capture have really produced a lot of really cool technologies that I'm hoping that we start to see in our neck of the woods pretty soon. And then finally, because we have these other tools, we don't need a 100% net zero fuel mix in the pipes to get to be a net zero utility. And so if there is still going to be methane in the system, we need to make sure that we're reducing and eliminating methane emissions all the way from the source, all the way to the customer meter, and then even behind the meter, helping customers reduce and eliminate methane leaks that they might not even know are currently present. And the reason why we believe in this gas decarbonization approach is because we being Peoples Gas and North Shore Gas, are a piece of this larger utility family, WEC Energy Group, that operates gas and electric utilities all throughout the upper Midwest. We know winters are cold and summers are hot. So as a company, we've really looked at all solutions, and we know that electrification or the electric utilities can't get us there alone. And if we want to continue to deliver safe, reliable, affordable energy to our customers, it's going to take electric solutions and gas solutions to get us there. Next slide, please. Okay, I could probably teach a whole class on just this chart here, so I won't spend too much time on it. But I included it to show that this combined approach, this all solutions approach, is the best approach, and why we think it's the best. So on the left, you'll see a snapshot in time of economy-wide emissions in 2020. They're coming from natural gas, petroleum, coal. Some of that's used to generate electricity, some of that's used directly with customers, some of that's used for transportation, but combine them all together and we look at, okay, what's the state of economy-wide emissions in 2020? And that's the problem that we're looking to address. So how do we get that to zero? Well, given everything that was available to us at the time of this study, the answer is it's going to be a whole suite of solutions. It's going to be a combination of things. And if you look at the first path one, what we're saying is, if you pursue this gas decarbonization approach that I just talked about, plus electrification where that makes sense, then you can reduce these economy-wide emissions to net zero at a cost of about $165 per metric ton of CO2 reduced. So the future is going to be more expensive, but let's make sure that it's the least expensive, the least cost option. Path two looks at, again, this gas decarbonization approach plus electrification where that makes sense, but using worst case scenario decarbonized fuel costs. So what if hydrogen is at its most expensive? What if renewable natural gas is at the upper limit of what we're projecting? Then okay, you see, it is going to be more expensive than path one, but we can still get there. Path three is looking at electrification as the only solution. So everybody in the call, 100% electrifies everything. Transportation's 100% electrified. Everything's electrified. And then that electricity is decarbonized as well. So that's things like wind, solar, nuclear, battery storage. And what you see here is if you narrow the possible solutions to only electrification, you're really putting handcuffs on yourself and making a hard problem even harder. So in terms of cost per CO2 reduced, order of magnitude more expensive for all of us. So what we're saying is we're not anti-electrification. We're pro all solutions where they make sense. Now we want customers to be able to evaluate their situations and then have all of the solutions available to them to pick the specific solution that makes the most sense for them. In some cases, that might be electrifying some things. In other cases, it won't be. So now that we've kind of seen the theory behind this gas decarbonization approach, now I'll get to the meat of it and talk about a couple of emerging technologies that are very recently into the market. Next slide, please. So these are the technologies that'll get us to that 100% fully decarbonized future using both electric and gas solutions wherever they make sense. This slide here is just kind of a background into how we got here. So long story short, we are invested in looking at solutions all the way from generation through the transmission distribution systems, and then all the way to behind the meter in your facilities. What can you be doing? And so that's what I'll be focusing on today, that end use category. Next slide, please. All right, first on the list are gas heat pumps. Next slide. I'm sure most, if not all of you, have heard about electric heat pump technology, heard about cold climate heat pumps. Maybe even some of you have kicked the tires on some electric heat pump systems and evaluated whether or not they're a good fit for your building. I'm happy to tell you today that there is an entire product class out there, gas heat pumps, or more accurately, thermally driven heat pumps, because these can be powered by more than just natural gas. But there's this whole product class of solutions out there that is diverse and can be tailored, again, to specific solutions. So what we see here are some of the benefits. I think what's most relevant to this audience is the modular approach that you can take with some of these technologies. I give you a good for example. So we were out at a hotel, a large commercial building in the Loop. Now they've got aging boilers. They're looking at our energy efficiency program incentives, looking at, okay, what are our options? We know these things are going to die soon. We need to start, planning for that future solution. So they're looking at, maybe racked tankless water heaters to provide, to replace their large boilers. And their thought process there was, as the boilers die, we can just keep adding to this array of tankless water heaters. So we said, have you considered gas heat pumps? Because you can do the same thing. Maybe you start with one or two, and they take 40% of your heating load. The boilers do the rest. You start with a couple, you realize those savings, and then over time, those savings can then pay for the next gas heat pump. And then by the time your boiler dies, you're slowly phasing in for example, a gas heat pump technology that's about 140% efficient instead of a traditional boiler, or even the tankless systems that they were looking at, which kind of top out at 96, maybe even 98% efficient. So right now we are offering incentives for gas heat pump technology. There should be a link in the chat where you can learn more about this technology. I highly recommend, if you're, when you're in your capital planning process, reach out to the EE programs, let us know. We can send our experts out there and they'll give you an honest assessment. Yes, this technology can work for you, or no, you're not a good fit for this. You should consider something else. Next slide, please. Okay, so this, again, these are modular, kind of plug and play. You can size the units to meet really any load. They can go on the roof, they can go outside the building. The big thing here is, compared to the next most efficient option, you're talking about an over 40% increase in efficiency. So non-trivial savings. You can actually feel that impact pretty quickly. And then what I talked about, what I just talked about is, the ability to plug and play with different pieces of an existing hot water or space heating system. So you can start with one and then phase in more over time. Really, you can design custom solutions for your needs. Next slide, please. Okay, so I teased it earlier. I said big things are coming in carbon capture. From my perspective, as representing the energy efficiency programs, one of the biggest advancements in carbon capture technology is the ability to actually capture CO2 emissions in a way that increases total system efficiency. Next slide, please. So up until now, carbon capture has always come at a cost or an energy penalty, right? You got to use a bunch of electricity to separate out the CO2 and compress it and cool it, and it's energy intensive. This particular technology that we're looking at here, it's called CarbonX. It's a literal black box. It's about the size of a large refrigerator. So it can fit into a boiler room. Ideal for smaller facilities, which up until now haven't really had a carbon capture solution. And again, the beauty with this technology is, even if it didn't capture any carbon, it's still an economizer. What that means is it still recovers waste heat from the boilers and returns it back to the process to save you energy. That last bullet point here is kind of getting at that. We had mentioned carbon negative solutions as one of the pillars of gas decarbonization. What we mean by carbon negative is taking a fuel that's already either low carbon or carbon neutral. For example, renewable natural gas generated from a biogas digester. If you run that through a carbon capture device, now you're taking a carbon neutral fuel and reducing emissions beyond zero. So you're actually getting to a negative CO2 emissions. What that means is these renewable fuels are more expensive. That means you don't need to be running on 100% renewable natural gas to be 100% carbon neutral. Maybe with a carbon capture economizer and a contract for, say, 50 to 60% RNG, now you've gotten to net zero emissions, but without having to get there using 100% net zero fuels. Next slide, please. Here's a quick diagram about how it works. Again, flue gas from the boiler goes through a heat exchanger. That carbon dioxide in the flue gas undergoes a chemical reaction. So it goes from a white powder to this yellow powder. And then the way the business model works is this pearl ash, which is potassium carbonate, this yellow powder actually has a commercial value to it. So right now, all over the world, there are factories that are producing this potassium carbonate and using it in their products. So how Carbonex works is you enter into a 20-year purchase agreement with the manufacturer saying, me as facility owner, I'll put in this machine, I'll capture CO2, I'll make this pearl ash, and I'll sell it back to you at a rate of about 90 cents a kilogram. What the company does is they turn around and use that in their product line of sustainable cleaning products. And so that's what you see at the bottom there. Right now, it's being used to make things like shampoo, conditioners, hand soaps, degreasers, but the uses for this potassium carbonate are pretty broad. I mean, agricultural industries, pharmaceuticals, can be used for a bunch of things. Right now, it's being used for consumer cleaning products. Next slide. I'm actually going to skip over this one in the interest of time and talk about, yes, okay, so future potential, right? There are technologies that can unlock future opportunities for you. What I like the most about this technology is what some customers up in Canada are doing. You see in the upper right corner, there's a little soap dispenser that has the Atco Gas logo on it. This is actually so there's a Carbonex unit in a hotel in Alberta, Canada. And the hotel said, great, we're capturing CO2 emissions, we're saving gas, we're getting paid back for it. But you know what? There's an opportunity to not just save on our utility bills. There's an opportunity here to reduce our operating costs. If you could pay us back instead of a cash rebate, can you pay us back in the form of these single-use soaps and shampoos that we have to put into our guest rooms? So they said, yes, absolutely. And so they worked out an agreement where this hotel now is paid back in the form of these products that go in the guest room. And then there's a nice note there that says something along the lines of, did you know that you're washing your hands with recycled carbon that's reducing this facility's carbon footprint? I think this is a nice snapshot of what could be possible with technologies like these small scale distributed carbon capture technologies that create a commodity that then can be sold back to industry at a profit. Next slide, please. Okay, I've got one more technology here, micro combined heat and power systems. I'll go quickly so that we can get to the Q&A. Next slide, please. I really wanted to include this technology because anytime you say combined heat and power to people, they picture this huge engine that's, the entire size of a boiler room that costs several millions of dollars to install. It's custom built. Project probably takes 3 or 4 years. I'm here to tell you that that's probably not the best solution for everyone here on the call, because you don't have that kind of time, you don't have that kind of space, you don't have that kind of budget. Um, Lucky for you, micro combined heat and power technology. So that's anything from technologies that can generate 5 kilowatts worth of electricity up to about 100 kilowatts. These packaged solutions have really come a long way. Prices have come down a lot, come down so far to the point that we now think of these as basically a boiler replacement, a high efficiency boiler replacement that just so happens to also generate some electricity for you and reduce your electric bills. So if you're in the market for a boiler replacement, we had one technology at the beginning that you should take a look at, the gas heat pump. Here's another technology for you, combined heat and power systems. Again, we've got experts, we've got incentives to pay for the feasibility studies. So what that means is the EE program will pay somebody to come out to your facility, do an assessment, and then tell you if you're a good fit for a particular technology or not. No strings attached there. They're just the study provider. They're not the ones that would actually sell you the system. So it doesn't hurt to, if you're in the market, doesn't hurt to give us a call, and we can send somebody out to give you an honest assessment. Okay, and with that, there are a few other slides here talking about the decarbonized fuels that could be powering all of this stuff. But I think the main focus of this presentation is what is new to the market right now. So I think now this is a good place to pause for questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Thomas. That was great to hear about gas decarbonization and get a little bit more information about all those exciting technologies. And for everyone in the audience, we will be sharing a PDF version of Thomas's slide deck. So you'll be able to see the whole thing extend further into the areas that he wasn't able to cover today, and as well as the links that I provided in the chat to provide a little bit more information. So we are going to open it up to Q&A. I know we had some in the chat, but briefly, Thomas, I just wanted to, for everyone in the audience, go over how could someone who's interested in one of these pieces of new technologies that you went over today take advantage of these and work with Peoples Gas or other utilities on incorporating that into their building, whether that's leveraging incentives or just the expertise of the company itself, since these are such new pieces of equipment?
Yeah, great question. So we've got a whole team of outreach folks that are, their job is to meet you all where you are. So a couple different ways to get a hold of us. One would be feel free to reach out to me directly. My contact information is in the slides here. Another way is through our website, peoplesgasdelivery.com/savings. I think that link was also included. There's a way that you can kind of send an automated message that gets sent to the team. And then also for those of you that have a Peoples Gas account representative, reach out to your Peoples Gas account rep. They are really good at taking it from there, and all you have to say is, hey, I'm interested in seeing what the EE program has to offer, and they'll come find us. We'll bring the experts out. We can have a video meeting with you just to talk about what you're interested, what you're looking for. And again, all of this is no obligations, so it doesn't hurt to reach out.
Thank you. Just with a couple minutes left that we have you, I'm going to go through the chat. I put some in from the Q&A section, try to do everything in order that they came in. So we'll try to get through as many as we can here. First question was from John Lindsay. Is zero carbon better than solar power energy?
So those are two sides of the same coin. So solar power can be zero carbon, although right now it does need to be backed up by some sort of firm power source. But if it's backed up by a renewable natural gas combined heat and power system, then yes, it's net zero.
Excellent. This one is from Scott Farben. For gas heat pumps, I see cooling was left off the list of things it can do. However, at current IECC and ASHRAE energy code discussions, the proposals that are going on, cooling is not being included, so it is included. Can you elaborate on the intent of gas heat pumps, specifically in the residential marketplace?
Yes, so specific to residential applications, cooling technology is not available. If you're looking at larger commercial systems, there are gas VRF systems that can basically do everything that an electric heat pump VRF can do. So it's heating and cooling. A couple different options on the commercial side for gas heat pumps with cooling, but nothing in the market today can do residential cooling and heating.
Excellent. We have a question from, my chat just jumped a little bit here. Sorry about that. We have a question from Peter Fugil. Is Peoples Gas considering thermal energy networks as an alternative or supplement to gas? Do you have any current or planned studies or pilot projects for thermal energy networks?
Yeah, that's a great question. We're certainly looking into it. Interested in the ICC, Illinois Commerce Commission, recently concluded a thermal energy networks workshop last year. There's an ongoing future of gas proceeding. One of the options that we being the state of Illinois could be looking into are thermal energy networks. So if that pilot proposal does go forward, we'd be happy to, and we'd love to be a part of a thermal energy network pilot.
Excellent. All right, we have a question from Ron Wexler. Does your definition of aggressively pursuing energy efficiency include decreasing building energy loads through building envelope improvements that can also lead to downsizing the HVAC or heat pump requirements?
Yes. So one of the things that my group is actually looking into is, I manage the emerging technology program. So we have funds that we can set aside towards research, development, and demonstration. One of the things we know we need to do is make weatherization easier, less time intensive, less expensive. So there are a couple solutions out there, but ultimately, yes, the weatherization is probably the biggest opportunity out there right now. So seal up the building, make sure it's operating at its peak efficiency, and then you right size the HVAC after you've sealed up the envelope. That's the way to do it.
Excellent. We just have a couple more. I want to get through a couple of these. I'm glad the audience is so engaged. Thanks everyone for your questions today. Scott Farman asks, do you have data yet on the cost dollar per ton of CO2 removed for the black box? And I think he might be referring to the
yes, the CarbonX system.
CarbonX.
Yeah, so we actually have 2 of those installed right now in our North Shore gas territory. There's 2 high schools. We actually had the Grays Lake Environmental Club. The officers were in that picture that you saw there. So we do have data coming off of those units. The cost of CO2 reduced is going to depend on what the building load is. So this is a high school. These are on the domestic hot water system, but the savings that they're going to achieve is going to look different than a multifamily office building because the hot water load is different. but we can, Scott, if you want to reach out directly, I can dive into the details on those specific projects with you. Happy to do that.
That's great. Thanks, Thomas. We have 2 more questions in the chat. I want to cut it off now because I know we're a little bit over time, but get through these 2 just because we're on such a great roll. So Dylan Martin asks, how do you find and procure new technology to include in these incentive packages?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways we do that. A couple of the ways was included on one of the slides. It's mostly through the research collaboratives. So this is electric and gas utilities getting together across the continent. So the US and Canada, comparing notes, looking at what new developments are happening. We also do some on our own. We work a lot with the local universities within our service territory. So we're pretty active right now with Illinois Tech, formerly Illinois Institute of Technology. We're actually developing a couple of radiator retrofit solutions. And again, that just started as a PhD candidate's good idea. We got wind of it and we said, yeah, there might be something there. So we work with them and turns out, yeah, there is something there. So the leads come from all different places. I would like to see more leads coming from, customers directly. So like, you tell us where are the blind spots or where are the holes in the tech offerings, and then my job will be to go out, scan the market, and find technologies to fill that void.
Excellent. Last questions from Cindy Stewart. She says, I represent a nonprofit social business partnership. We have worked with ComEd EEP, Energy Efficiency Program, training and supporting contractors with solar and electric. How do we get involved with People's Gas Service Provider Network?
That's great. We actually have a whole couple different ways. Definitely reach out to me. We started this whole market development initiative at the beginning of last year, and it's 100% focused on developing the new EE workforce. For example, there aren't enough mechanical contractors to begin with, let alone enough mechanical contractors that are familiar with these new technologies to get those out. So we would love to partner with your organization. We offer trainings both online and in person. But again, if we can grow the list of people we include in our outreach, we'd love to do that.
Excellent. Thanks for everyone for answering such great questions. Thank you so much, Thomas, for providing your time and expertise today to teach us a little bit more about these innovative gas technologies. Now we can start using them in our buildings. We will be sending a follow-up email after this that will have a recording of the video, a PDF of the slide deck so that you guys can explore a little bit further yourselves. I also put a link to a survey in the chat. Let us know how we're doing on our education programs. We're always looking to improve how we present our topics. So if you have any feedback for us, we really appreciate that. But want to thank everyone and thank Thomas for his time today before we log off. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Great. Thanks, everyone. We'll be following up the email. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.